Right now, there's an AI tool for basically every part of coding, and picking the right one could literally save you hours every week. Hey, I'm Mark, and today we're breaking down the best AI coding assistants out there, what they actually do, and which one might be perfect for you. So here's the thing about AI coding tools. A couple years ago, the idea of an AI helping you write code seemed like science fiction. But it's not anymore. These tools have gotten genuinely useful, and developers are using them every single day to write faster, debug smarter, and honestly, just get less frustrated with their work. But they're not all the same, and that's what we're diving into today. Let's start with the elephant in the room, GitHub Copilot. This is probably the most well-known AI coding tool right now, and for good reason. It's built by GitHub, which is owned by Microsoft, and it's trained on basically billions of lines of code from open-source projects. What that means is, when you're typing in your code editor, Copilot watches what you're doing and suggests the next lines of code. It's like autocomplete on steroids. You type a function name, and it can fill in the whole implementation. You write a comment describing what you want, and it writes the code. It works inside VS Code, Visual Studio, JetBrains IDEs, and a bunch of other editors. The cool part? It's actually pretty good at understanding context. If you're working in a specific framework like React or Django, it learns that and gives you suggestions that fit your project. The downside is it costs money. It's about $10 a month for individual developers, or you can pay through your company. Some people think that's worth it because of how much time it saves. Others think paying for code suggestions feels weird. That's a personal call. Now, if you want something free, there's Codeium. Honestly, Codeium is doing some really interesting stuff. It's free for individual developers, and it works in basically every code editor you can think of. The autocomplete is solid, and the code generation is pretty similar to Copilot. The big difference is the pricing model. They're betting on making money from companies eventually, but right now, if you're a solo developer or a student, you're not paying anything. The downside is that it's not quite as polished as Copilot yet, and the community around it is smaller. But if you're just getting started with AI coding tools, Codeium is a genuinely good place to start without dropping money. Then there's Tab9, which has been around for a while and kind of pioneered the whole AI autocomplete thing. Tab9 is interesting because it uses what's called local models, meaning some of the AI runs on your computer instead of in the cloud. That's a privacy thing. If you're working with sensitive code and you don't want it sent to a server somewhere, Tab9 has that option. They've got a free tier that's pretty functional and paid plans if you want more features. The autocomplete is smooth, and it's trained on a lot of open source code. It's not as flashy as Copilot, but it's reliable and it respects privacy, which some people really care about. Now, let's talk about something different. ChatGPT and Claude aren't specifically coding tools, but they're incredible for coding. You can paste your code into ChatGPT, ask it to explain what's wrong, and it'll often give you a solid answer. You can ask it to refactor your code, write tests, optimize performance, whatever. The advantage is that ChatGPT and Claude are conversational. You can ask follow-up questions, and they understand context way better than some of the specialized tools. The disadvantage is that you're not getting real-time autocomplete as you type. You're jumping back and forth between your code editor and the chat. That's slower. But for debugging, learning, and big-picture code review, they're incredibly useful. And honestly, a lot of developers use ChatGPT as their primary AI coding tool because it's just so good at reasoning. There's also a newer tool called Cursor, which is basically VS Code, but built from the ground up to work with AI. It's got Claude built in, and the experience is really smooth. You can highlight code and ask Claude questions about it right there in the editor. You can use something called Composer mode, which is like having an AI copilot write entire files for you. It's still relatively new, but it's gaining traction fast. The pricing is reasonable, and if you like Claude's reasoning abilities but want them integrated into your editor, Cursor is worth checking out. Let me break down the actual differences you should care about. First, there's speed. How fast does the tool give you suggestions? Copilot and Codeium are instant because they're running in your editor. ChatGPT and Claude require you to open a browser or an app, so there's friction. Second, there's accuracy. How often are the suggestions actually useful versus how often do you just delete them? Copilot is generally pretty good, especially if you give it context. ChatGPT is more accurate for complex problems because it reasons better, but it's slower. Third, there's privacy. Where does your code go? Copilot and Codeium send your code to their servers, though they don't train on it. Tab 9 can run locally. ChatGPT and Claude also send your code to their servers, but they have privacy policies about it. If you're working with proprietary code, that matters. Fourth, there's cost. Copilot costs money. Codeium and Tab 9 have free tiers. ChatGPT requires a subscription unless you use the free version, which has limits. Cursor costs money, but it's a full editor replacement. Here's my honest take. If you're a professional developer and you're coding for work, Copilot is probably the move. It's the most mature, it's deeply integrated into popular editors, and it saves real time. If you're a student or you're just learning, Codeium is fantastic because it's free and it's genuinely useful. If you care about privacy, Tab 9 is solid. If you want the best reasoning ability for debugging and refactoring, use ChatGPT or Claude. And if you want all of that in one editor experience, try Cursor. But here's what I really want you to understand. These tools are not a replacement for knowing how to code. They're amplifiers. They make you faster if you already know what you're doing. If you don't know how to code yet, they can help you learn, but they're not a shortcut. They're also not perfect. They make mistakes. They generate code that looks right, but has bugs. They sometimes give you solutions that are overcomplicated when a simple approach would work better. You still need to review what they write. You still need to test it. You still need to understand it. The other thing to understand is that these tools are evolving fast. Like, embarrassingly fast. Whatever I'm telling you today might be outdated in 6 months. New tools will pop up. Existing tools will get better or worse. The pricing will change. So the real skill isn't memorizing which tool is best. It's learning how to evaluate a tool for your own workflow. Try the free versions. See what feels natural. See what actually saves you time versus what feels like a gimmick. That's how you figure out what works for you. If you found this breakdown helpful, I'd love if you subscribe to the channel. We're breaking down AI and tech stuff like this all the time, and I'm trying to make it make sense for regular people, not just engineers. So hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.